Hello and welcome to Two Tiers Deep, the Women's Cricket Weekly Show, with me, Rosa Simpkin.
And me, Chloe Hill.
I'm the journalist working in all the tiers of women's cricket.
And I'm the cricketer currently playing in the game.
We saw a gap in the market, mainly from a Tier 2 coverage perspective. So we thought, why not start a podcast? Hello and welcome back to the Two Tiers Deep podcast. This week, we've got a little bit of an exciting guest coming your way. But first of all, Chloe, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Season is slowly or fastly approaching, I should say. Sun has been shining the last 2 weeks. Cricket is started again outdoors. So yeah, really good to be fair. So how are you?
I'm all good, getting ready for the chaos of the season. You can tell when we're in the business because suddenly there's a lot of counties popping up with media days and bits like that. But yeah, it's been good. We're very close now. A couple of weeks away.
Yeah, so close. So, yeah, literally a couple of weeks away to that first game of the season. We had our media day or kit launch sort of day at Northants last weekend. So it's quite exciting. Putting on the new kit, seeing what it's looking like, and yeah, be wearing it in a couple of weeks' time against Kent at home.
Do you rate the new kit? Does it get Chloe's stamp of approval?
I do. We've got a 50 over kit and a T20 kit, and I have to say the T20 kit is looking spicy. Although I'm a big fan of the 50 over kit, so you'll have to wait and see.
I look forward to it. Shall we start with some domestic cricket as we are the Two Tiers Deep podcast after all, because we've had two contract extensions of some rising players.
We have. So we'll start with Neve Holland from Somerset. Somerset announced that she has extended her contract till 2029. So 3 year extension. Yeah, so she was obviously a big part in the England under-19 squad a few years ago. Played in the 100 the last 2 years as well, and sort of a product of the Southwest. So yeah, really excited for her and for Somerset.
I mean, she's one who's had a real backing then. I mean, a 3 year contract is quite unusual in women's cricket. Um, the only contract we've seen of that was Josie Groves at the Blaze, who signed a 4 year contract back when Project Darwin began. But it's good to see counties investing in their younger talent.
Yeah, I guess they're sort of investing quite smartly in younger talent, and wanting to invest in one of their own, I guess, is ultimately their plan, I imagine, with a 3 year contract. Like you say, we don't really see it in the women's game, but I do think we're going to start to see it more and more over the next few years.
Indeed. And we've had another extension up at Yorkshire. Erin Thomas signed a 2 year contract extension, one who was involved in more recent under 19 World Cup. Where was it? Thailand?
Somewhere there, somewhere around there, somewhere around.
Somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
And she's super exciting. I saw her play quite a lot last season because I was very much around tier 2, and it'll be interesting to see how she handles that step up into tier 1.
Yeah, she's certainly an exciting top order batter. I think we saw when Lauren Winfield Hill went to Essex on loan last year that Erin Thomas was sort of that key opener for Yorkshire in tier 2. So yeah, I guess the step up now to tier 1. Obviously, she played for Northern Diamonds in the regional system, so she sort of had that exposure of playing at that top level. But it'd be really exciting to see now how she sort of goes against those tier 1 counties who have had, I guess, a year ahead of her now.
It really will. And on the note of rising talent, we've just come off the back of a rather interesting experiment in South Africa. Team Hey Ho Flint versus Team Brittin, an intra-squad ECB series. England versus England. What were your initial takeaways?
Do you know what? I was quite a big fan of having this series, sort of an opportunity to take a large group of English domestic talent abroad to compete against each other to fight for their spot for the World Cup. Um, and I think we saw some surprises. I also think we saw some players maybe not get the outcome that they wanted from this series. but yeah, for me it was exciting to see some names that we've been banging the drum on from the regional system and domestic system for the last season or so.
I completely agree with you. I think obviously it was adapted based on a location change, but given it was arranged and quite literally thrown together, it ran quite smoothly. And they managed to avoid the rain in South Africa, which does come at this time of year, which they were very lucky about. I think it was interesting to see who got regular game time and who didn't. There were probably a few of the players who aren't currently England's centrally contracted players who would have been hoping for some more game time to cement their place a little bit more. Um, but it's certainly been interesting. For context, Team Hey Ho Flynn and Team Hey Ho Flynn, for those who didn't follow along the series, had a lot of your mainstay England players, like your Heather Knight, your Tammy Beaumont, your Danny White Hodges, and they were captained by Charlie Dean. Team Britain also had some England mainstays in Natsira Brunt, Sophia Dunkley, Maya Bouchier, Alice Capsey, but had a lot more youngsters who were coming through. Initially, the series wasn't at its most competitive. The first game saw Team Britain win by 9 wickets after chasing down Team Hey Ho Flint's 109 for 9 in 12 overs. They did it losing just 1 wicket. Second game saw Team Hey Ho Flint win by 10 wickets. I think it's fair to say steamrolling Team Britain for 70. They chased it down in 10.5 overs. Another easy chase after the batting team was, I think it's fair to say, steamrolled first up. The third game was a little bit more competitive. We got our competitive cricket. Team Britain batted first and scored 177 for 4, and Team Hey Ho Flint just couldn't reach the target, only getting 169 for 8, with Team Britain winning by 8 runs. And then if Chloe wants to take us through the last 3 games.
So the fourth game was actually abandoned, and this was going to be a daytime game. So we'd seen the few early games be played under light. So as Rosa mentioned about the weather in South Africa, that clearly affected the fourth game. The fifth game, we had Team Britain post a mammoth total of 212 for 5 in their 20 overs. And I do have to give a key to Sophia Donnelly with 102 off 51 balls. But Hey Ho Flint chased this mammoth total down, winning by 6 wickets. And again, some key players in that game were Danny White Hodge and Danny Gibson. And in the final game, Hey Ho Flint posted 102 all out in their 20 overs. But Team Britain chased this down with 3 wickets remaining, 103 for 7. So, all in all, I would say a fairly competitive but non-competitive series, if that makes sense. So there were clearly some low scores, but there was also towards the back end, I think everyone sorted to find the groove and get used to the wickets out there, which meant that Team Britain walked away with the trophy from the inter-squad series. Now, I guess there were some key things to note throughout that series in terms of captaincies from start of the series to the end of the series. Do you want to explain a little bit more on that?
I do indeed, because we had our England captain and vice captain duo each captaining aside. Natsira Brunt was leading Team Britain and Charlie Dean was leading Team Hey Ho Flynn. However, Natsira Brunt had to return home after a couple of games of the series for personal reasons, and Charlie Dean missed the last 2 games of the series due to a slight back niggle that they were managing, which meant we got 2 maybe unconventional captains leading our side. For Team Britain, this was Sophia Dunkley, and I was about to say for Team Charlie Dean. And for Team Hey Ho Flint, that was Danny Gibson, which was definitely a bit of a rogue choice given that 11, but I loved it.
Yeah, I think both the captaincy choices were a bit rogue, but I think it's something we spoke about last year, saying that they've got to give these youngsters a go at captaincy experience. Like, we can't just give it to Tammy Beaumont and Danny White Hodge and people who have been in that side, and you can't give it back to Heather Knight. So ultimately, I actually quite enjoyed it that they gave Sophia Dunkley and Danny Gibson a chance at captaincy. And I guess what better way to learn in an inter-squad series where they sort of don't have the fear of failure or making mistakes. And yeah, it was clearly great experience for both of them.
And can I add, in that game where Danny Gibson took over the Team Hey Ho Flint captaincy, she scored 67 not out from 29 balls, a 231 strike rate. So, it definitely went well for her.
Yeah, definitely. But I wonder sometimes whether, because the captain, maybe did she bowl herself at the right time? Did she bowl herself enough? But clearly we know that she is an explosive powerhouse with the bat. So I think ultimately that is where we want to look with Danny Gibson going forward. And yeah, some of the sixes she hit and cleared the roads were massive. So yeah, maybe captaincy does wonders for her game. Um, but in terms of the inter-squad series, obviously Charlotte Edwards has got a big decision to make of who she's going to pick for the World Cup. Are there any key standout players for you who you think should be in that World Cup squad?
Can I just say, Chloe knows exactly what is coming from me here. Izzy Wong. I'm going to bang this drum until I die. She was the top wicket taker of the series with 9. She was consistent game to game, taking wickets, being economical, which I think was one of her issues previously when she was first in that England squad. She'd have 4 or 5 balls in an over, which were perfect. And then 9 times out of 10, she'd have a stray ball that found its way to the ropes. And that's something that she's worked really hard on improving. And I think she brings this energy and this box office that you want in a World Cup squad. And if she isn't in it, Rosa will be. I'll be there with my placards having a riot. What about you? Who do you have an eye on?
So we've obviously seen Charlotte Edwards play Lindsay Smith and Sophie Hoxton in the same team, two left-arm spinners. But Tilly Courtine-Coleman, she had a fantastic series and being joint second wicket taker with Lindsay Smith with 7 wickets apiece. And I really wouldn't be surprised if we see her in the World Cup squad. It's certainly going to be an interesting decision between Eccleston, Courtine-Coleman and Smith in terms of left-arm spinners and how we're going to play that out. But yeah, she's clearly got 2 very strong cricketers ahead of her in Smith and Eccleston. But I, for one, certainly see her being included in that squad.
We've also got a bit of a batting conundrum for Charlotte Edwards to solve, as 3 of our opening batters in Sophia Dunkley, Danny Whitehead, and Maya Boucher were in the top 4 run scorers. Dunkley topped this with 174 at a 34.8 average and also scored a century and was looking pretty powerful at the top. And she has been someone who's had a lot of question marks over her place in recent times. So it'll be interesting to see who Lottie goes with. I think Tammy Beaumont might be in a bit of bother for World Cup selection now. I don't see how she makes that squad over Dunkley, Whitehead, or Bouchier. And you've also got Davina Perrin waiting in the wings, who is another strong option. So it's a difficult one for Lottie.
Yeah, and I guess also if you want to look at it from a different perspective as well, you've got Emma Lamb, who had a fantastic season for Lancashire, and she contributed. Probably not what she wanted to out in this series, but she contributed with the bat when she got the opportunities. But again, batting in a completely different batting position that she's been used to. And yeah, I guess obviously Davina Perrin probably didn't go out to South Africa and showcase her talent to what we've all seen her do this past year for Warwickshire and in the 100. So I don't know. I don't know what will be sort of thing with her. I guess come the World Cup squad. But how exciting that we've got a domestic season prior to the World Cup where players can go out there and keep putting their name into the hat as well.
I think the other thing with Dav is Charlotte Edwards isn't the kind of coach who's going to throw youngsters into pressure situations. And probably Tilly Courtine-Coleman too. She'll manage her and Perrin quite carefully, as both of them will definitely be playing for England at some point in the future. It's just a case of managing when. And I don't think there's much benefit in rushing players like Dav into an England environment when she probably would be more of a squad player if she made that team based on the performances over this series. Obviously, that could change with how the domestic season goes. Surely it's more beneficial to have her playing regular cricket and improving herself on the pitch. So it'll be interesting. It will be interesting to see.
Yeah, and I guess in terms of wicket keepers, I think ultimately Amy Jones will probably be the first choice come that World Cup squad. We did see Rihanna Southby have a good time, I guess, behind the stumps with 4 catches. Amy Jones with 3 catches and a stumping, but quite a quiet series for Ellie Threlkeld. I think she probably didn't get to play maybe as many matches as she would have liked, but I guess that's the interesting side of having both Southby and Threlkeld on the same team instead of splitting them up. But and obviously we know that Charlotte Edwards likes Amy Jones at the top of the order as well, so I guess that's another opening batter question mark that we will see later on in the summer. Staying with English cricket, we've had another squad announcement and we've got another England series going on in the next couple of weeks.
We do indeed, because we've got another under 19 series. Aren't you loving the rise of women's under 19 cricket? We've got a tri series format, so we're taking it back into the old days of women's cricket here in Australia against Australia and Sri Lanka. They'll be playing one 50 over game and two T20s against each. Was there anyone in that squad that popped out to you?
I mean, there's certainly a fair few names in there that I've seen over the years from either from a coaching perspective or seen them within, I guess, their tier 2 or tier 3 county prior to them being in a tier 1 academy. I think first and foremost, if we start off at the top, obviously you've got a surname in there of Adams at Hampshire, which I think people clearly relate that to Georgie Adams, who is the Hampshire captain. So you've got Molly Adams in the side. Yeah, she's a really, really exciting wicketkeeper, top order batter. And she sort of had like a rise in these last few years very, very quickly. So I think it'd be really, really exciting for her. Ginger from Surrey, she plays for Kent in tier 2. She, for me, I think in the next 5-10 years, I think we could potentially see her in the main England squad. And that is a big call from me. But she is an all-rounder, and we love all-rounders. Bowls pace, bowls seam, and is a top middle order destructive batter. And then obviously we've got Eve O'Neill in there, who got selected in the draft. So I guess people will be keeping an eye out on her to see how she goes out in Australia. And then for me, the 2 other ones, Shrishti Patel. When I was coaching at Vipers on the EPP, she was probably only like 13 or 14 at the time. And you could tell that she had so much talent and ability with the bat. And then Clara Thacker from Essex, who is named in the Northants women's squad this year. So I've seen her quite a lot over this winter. She's bowled at me. She bowls a mean bouncer as well. She's got some serious pace for a youngster. So yeah, I think certainly watch out for her in terms of opening the bowling.
100%. Another one I'd like to give a shout out be Willis, who got the promotion to tier 1. She was at Gloucestershire last season, performed consistently for them, and I was very impressed by her. So it's a super exciting squad, and it's great to see these girls getting competitive opportunities over the winter in really well structured coaching environments, because it won't only benefit them, but it will also benefit the quality in tier 2 and beyond.
So next up on the pod, we've got a very exciting guest. She plays cricket for Gloucestershire, but in recent times she has just set up her own podcast called Extra Cover, and this will be launched in the second week of April. This podcast is about mental health in cricket, and she's interviewed 6 professional cricketers, I guess, to talk about the likes of racial discrimination, eating disorder, anxiety about professional sports. and I think it's going to be a really key podcast for people to go and listen to, and we're really excited to listen to her now, talk about the podcast, but also ask her some questions as well. Her podcast is also in collaborations with Not Out, which is a cricket charity that raises money for the likes of Mind and the PCA. So we're delighted to welcome onto the pod Alice Bird.
First of all, welcome to the pod. For our listeners, would you like to describe yourself as a player, a bit about your background and what you do?
Oh, so oh, describe myself as a player. That's thrown me a bit already. First question, doing well. Um, well, I'm a seam bowler, try and bowl quick. I swing it in. I'd say my swing is my main skill, but I'm also a desk bowler. I've got slower balls and variations. I grew up in the Somerset pathway. Um, and then I was in the Storm EPP and then was released at 18. And then got a call from Gloss asking if I'd like to be in their tier two side. And I was very, very excited. Because pro cricket's always been my ambition and drive. So to be involved in, well, the opportunities tier two gives was just so exciting and especially to be asked directly to be involved in it was I was very appreciative of that opportunity as well. So yeah, and then I started that same year at Loughborough Uni and I'm in the performance side there also. So I have to say the degree takes a little bit of a back seat to the cricket, but it's what I love. So yeah.
And what are you studying at uni?
I'm doing media and communication, so it's basically a marketing degree. I tell people all the time it's communications. They're like, "What the hell is that?" So it's basically like media, marketing, PR. So yeah, long-winded answer, but that's what I do.
No, all
I'm on
good.
a journalism and comms degree, so I completely get the having to explain what the comms bit is, and everyone's always
Yeah.
like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah, I know. I remember first few weeks at uni, they were like, "So what? Like, you write emails?" And I was like, "Oh my God, no, no, it's not about writing text and emails."
I guess obviously just in terms of you speaking about Gloucestershire and tier two, um, how have you found Project Darwin in itself for women's cricket? Obviously, you spoke about being released from the Western Storm Academy at 18, and then obviously, I guess Project Darwin sort of arose, and you got the opportunities with Gloucestershire. So, what's your opinions on Project Darwin?
Um, I think it's so exciting. To think growing up, all I wanted to do was pro cricket, and I mean that is still the goal. But I think I'm a little more accepting if that doesn't happen. The opportunities in, playing at pro grounds, having crowds, having commentators on my games, like I am very aware and appreciative of this like setup now. And I think it's a lot more professionalized. The support and even the well-being that is around now is just years on what was there like even 18 months ago. Um, so I think it's a lot more structured, and I think you also have a better understanding of where you sit in the system because when it was just kind of women's counties under regional stuff, it was a mixed bag, and there didn't seem like a clear progression. So yeah, I think it's great.
And then looking ahead to 2026, you've obviously mentioned how much you've enjoyed Darwin so far. What are you looking forward what are you looking forward to taking forward with Gloucestershire and beyond in the new season?
I think as a team, is having Fran Wilson this year has been so exciting. Um, Obviously, she's the under 19, England under 19 fielding coach. So just even that different professionalism and intensity of fielding drills has just, I think, made a world of difference to our energy as a team and just like even team cohesion, really like bonding, because she's obviously been through the system herself. So I think she understands and has a lot more empathy for what time we're giving up to train. And also, I mean, we're not paid professionals, so I think she understands that we're training in a professional environment, but also have full-time education and full-time jobs alongside. Um, but going back to your question, sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent there. Um, I'm just really excited to like play under Fran this year, and I think, like I said, we've got a different intensity and energy to Gloucestershire as a team. So it'll be really exciting to see. Actually, I think we've got a little more grit and battle this year in us. And when there's hard points in the game, I'm really excited to see how we like fare as a team in those moments.
Nice. We absolutely love as well a female coach at the top level. And Fran's experience in the game is fantastic. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing her as a coach and how that impacts Gloucestershire as a team this season. Obviously, we've spoken to your captain on the pod, Liv Daniels, before. I guess I just want to ask from a player perspective, like what makes her a good captain, a good leader for Gloucestershire. Obviously, she's one of the youngest captains announced last year in Tier 2. So, yeah, really good to hear from, I guess, a player perspective on Liv.
Well, I really have a lot of respect for Liv. I think she was definitely thrown into the deep end last year being captain, um, especially with certain politics that happened. Um, and I just think you wouldn't know that she was 19 last year. She had a lot of, she's got a quiet confidence about her. She's very approachable and she has a lot of knowledge and experience already at 19. And I think she talks very well and is encouraging. Um, I just think she took it in her stride despite some of the barriers she may have faced last year, and was very collaborative, which I think she realizes at times, I am still 19, I've got things to learn. And I think, that as a captain to not just like be like, I'm the only voice, I want to hear everyone's voice, makes it a better environment to be a player in.
I was going to say, just from what we've seen and what we've heard and when we've spoken to Liv, yeah, it sort of sounds like she's got such a mature head on her shoulders already. And I guess, yeah, from even a player perspective, even though I'm going to be with Northants this year, I'm quite excited to see how Gloucestershire goes as a whole with under Fran and Liv for this season.
Yeah, I know. We lost to Northants last year, so
I didn't play in that.
no, but we're gonna go 1-1 this year, I reckon. How about you two?
You're also opening your season against Glamorgan, which will be an interesting test for you guys,
Yeah.
given they're prepping to go up into Tier 1.
Yes, and I think it's more interesting because of how many academy loanees from Glamorgan we have as a team. So, I think it can get a little, not spicy, but like obviously because they know their games inside out, and they know how psychologically to get to each other. But it can always be an interesting game from that perspective. But I think it's great that there are local rivals because obviously Gloucestershire want to push for Tier 1, and we most of our team are aspiring Tier 1 players, and just to have that rivalry and it's really good cricket when we play them. So win or lose, it will be a good game.
I think I'll be on comms for that game, so I'll look forward to seeing some of that rivalry in practice.
Yeah, anything that touches the pad, just be like, yeah, Alice got a wicket.
Amazing.
Bad decision from the umpire.
And I guess just moving on, I guess recently you've just announced that you're sort of producing a new podcast called Extra Cover. Really, really exciting collaboration with Not Out charity, which I guess supports mental health and that side of the game. Before I go into it anymore, do you just want to talk a little bit about the reason behind it, what's happened so far?
So extra cover is just a little like explanation behind the name. Um, Obviously it's a fielding position. So clever. What a great play on words. But it also stands for that, like, mental shield that you develop and that extra protection you need in place to either prevent or help you when you're going through mental hardships. And I think cricket is such an individual psychological game. And I think especially, like I said before, I think the well-being support before Project Darwin was work in progress in the women's game. The women's game professionally is still starting up and is a work in progress. Um, but just even societally, I think, mental health is the mainstream topic, but when you actually have to deal with it and talk about it, it's still very taboo. And I think this is just to break a lot of stigmas and stereotypes and actually show, like one of our guests said, completely correctly that someone is having a mental health episode. Let's not make it a big song and dance. Let's just accept it for it's just normal. Like, people are going to reach hard points in life, and it doesn't have to be this big, like, whoa, like, what do I do? Or like, I don't know if I can deal with this. You just have to like be like, okay, well, what's upsetting you at the moment, if that makes sense.
I mean, that's incredibly powerful. And it's great to hear that you've got so many people involved who are willing to be so open about their experiences. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about who's coming onto the pod and what people can look forward to?
Yeah, of course. So our first episode starts off with a very deep one. It's with Graham Clark, who plays for Durham and has played like around the world and in the hundred for Northern Superchargers. And he opens up about how he fell out of favour with a coach about probably like 8 to 10 years ago now in Durham at Durham. And he fell into a really depressive episode, had a lot of problems with social anxiety, um, really low place, didn't know what to do. He only had a year left on his contract. His wife was working away, so that support system wasn't there. He didn't feel like he could open up to the coach because he was in such a precarious position. And just talking about how, like, as a man as well, there's a stereotype around, let's not talk about our feelings, especially I think, there's also a stereotype around Northern people being, unemotional and, not in touch with their feelings and just getting on with it and not caring. So I think it's a really powerful episode to hear, not only from a man, but a Northern man, about how he is in touch with his feelings and how, he he's sought the right people. So he got support from the PCA, started medication, started opening up to teammates and external coaches. And, now he's thriving. He's playing in the hundreds. He still has his low dates, but everyone does. And I think that episode really sets the tone for the series.
And then I guess in terms of female cricketers that you've interviewed on your series coming up, I think I saw that you got Rachel Slater, Amy Wheeler, and Rhiannon McDonald-Gay. Obviously, taking it back a little bit to our podcast, quite a big bit on the domestic side of the game. Though those three players, I say, are key domestic English players, but they all have their struggles. Were there any key takeaways from any of those three that we can look forward to listening, maybe as viewers that we've never heard of before or heard about, or from a different perspective?
Um, the thing with the podcast is every episode is a standalone episode. No two episodes are the same. So Rachel talks about her experiences of ADHD and very, very authentically and vulnerably opens up about alcohol reliance at times, and also the anxiety and her social battery because of ADHD. Amy talks about her experiences, unfortunately, with racial discrimination in her past county, and how programs like the ACE program has, helped her get, not only diversify the game, but, given her opportunity to play pro cricket, and then sadly got a stress fracture and at the end of last season. So we discussed that as well, and, the mental and highs and lows of pro sport. And then Rihanna McDonald-Gay, that episode is a bit more about work-life balance. So it's more about preventing getting to a mental low. So it's she hasn't publicly spoken about being in like a low mental health episode, but she talks about how that juggle of, university, international cricket, hockey, she played international hockey, how she juggled all of that, but also made sure that she was regulated. So she got it all done.
Just on this as well, like how do you feel like this, the Extra Cover podcast has helped you as a person and as a cricketer as well?
So I have ADHD myself, and I have a tic disorder. So it's a bit different from Tourette's. It's not every day, but when I'm extremely tired or extremely stressed, I will tic. So I'll whistle, I'll click, you'll I'll say some weird things. It's a bit of a performance, but I have faced quite a lot of discrimination from these experiences, and also a lack of understanding of ADHD, like it's, you're special in inverted commas, or, you've got a learning disability, like, do I need to slow things down for you? And although, yes, I do need adjustments at times, don't stigmatize me, because I'm clearly, an individual. I'm a capable human being. I'm living away at university and juggling my own uni, and, not to toot my own trumpet, that's not the point of that. But, basically I'm not, I'm not abnormal, and what is normal. So I think, having had some really, really deep, insightful conversations with people, I think it might have, like, without being really cliche, like, healed that inner child of, everyone's going through stuff, and again, not to be cliche, but it's okay not to be okay. And actually there is always light at the end of the tunnel. And although I do feel like I've got to a really good place in my life, and I'm a lot more self-confident than I was at 16, I think, talking to people that have actually made it professionally, and I'm not there yet, but yet, touch wood, but having seen how they've progressed, I hope, just like how it's touched me, it inspires, like, all the young boys and girls that are looking to get to where they are.
I mean, it's incredible to see you talking so authentically, and it's really refreshing as well to see you using the platform you have through your role as a cricketer in such a healthy way. And I think we talk a lot about the representation of sport in the media, men's sport too. And I guess a massive part of it is breaking that stigma, and for you doing stuff like definitely helping to do so.
Thank you. That means a lot. Yeah, that means a lot. So thank you.
I think just on what this podcast that you're doing sort of does for past and present professional cricketers, I think even though an episode hasn't aired yet, I think you still have touched quite a lot of cricketers in terms of maybe they're in a chimp or something that they're feeling. I think we've spoken between Rosa and myself on the podcast before. Obviously, I've had quite a roller coaster of a cricketing career journey. So I've had 5 years in the professional game and sort of took myself away from it naturally. And ended up back in tier 2, but things obviously at my previous club weren't the nicest, which then naturally meant I sort of moved into a bit more of a coach mentor, and playing at Northants a bit. So I think even talking to female cricketers that you've done and highlighting the importance of, you might not actually know what's going on behind the scenes, but if people start to talk about it, I think so many more players are going to relate to it, and hopefully more and more people will keep talking.
100%.
I guess just before we finish, do you want to give us some dates of when the podcast is releasing? I guess for viewers to listen to that first episode.
Yeah, so the first episode is coming out this Tuesday, the 31st of March, at 9 a.m. It will be on YouTube and Spotify, and it's Graham Clark talking about anxiety and depression. But the first female guest is the 7th of April, again, Tuesday, 9 a.m. on Spotify and YouTube, and that's Rachel Slater talking about ADHD and anxiety.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on and being so vulnerable, and also talking about, I guess, the players that you've interviewed, and what Extra Cover is all about. And I think I, for one, am so excited to listen to that first episode.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
That was a lovely conversation with Alice about her podcast, and also giving the listeners a little bit of an inkling into her and her own experiences.
Yeah, that was such a lovely chat of Alice. In terms of her podcast, extra cover, and just the reasons behind it and the guests that she's got on. I definitely will be listening to that. But also it was really, really nice to hear about Alice, the cricketer for Gloucestershire, and how she's looking forward to the 2026 season under the new leadership of Fran Wilson, as head coach as well.
And genuinely a massive shout out to her for putting this together, because we both know how difficult it can be to be vulnerable publicly, on camera, through the podcast. And I think it will make a real difference to not just players, but also fans and people listening along, to know that it's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to be vulnerable, when you see some of the best in the game having no struggles too.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm really, really looking forward to, again, that first episode coming out on the 31st of March, which is next Tuesday at 9 a.m. Again, like how she said, on Spotify and YouTube. So I guess you get to see the vulnerability side from both perspectives as well. So yeah, really looking forward to that. And yeah, we are getting even closer to the cricket season now.
We are indeed. Next time you hear us, we'll be in the kind of week and a half to go No, we won't. We'll be in the week to go category. My words.
And hopefully next week we will bring you some more cricketers ahead of the 2026 season. And yeah, hopefully looking to get across players from tier 1, tier 2 and tier 3. But thanks again.
And that is all now. Thank you so much for listening, and we will speak to you guys next week.
See you later. Thanks for listening to this week's Two Tiers Deep. If you like to find me, Chloe Hill, you can find myself on Instagram with a new Instagram page covering this podcast at Two Tiers Deep CH. Or I'll pass you over Rosa to find herself at
Rosa Talks Ball. Or if you have any questions, you can contact us on rosatalksball@gmail.com. And please don't hesitate to get in touch.